Hello everyone. I've had a few requests from various people, not only on the O-Gauge Modelers Facebook page, but also from other Facebook groups, to put up a video about this layout. So I thought I'd sort of talk you through the build or the project and just see where we end up, basically. Obviously the layout has been sort of progressing quite nicely over the last few months since I started it in April 2021. The whole project has taken from April till roughly about now to get it completed, and I can say that I can say very pleased. I can say I'm very pleased with the progress of the whole project. The next aim now at the moment, where we are, is to get the fiddle yards at both ends completed and getting the cassettes made. So that's currently why the project hasn't really seen very much progress in the last few months, but it has been a lot of focus on various little areas. So most recently I worked on these mineral wagons. Now, because the way the layout's designed, you can pick up wagons, full wagons are dropped off and empties are taken away. We have wagons with coal inside them now. They're not perfect, obviously perfectly filled, but I've put magnets inside so you can lift the coal out, and then the wagons appear inside empty. I actually, if a coal merchant was filling up his staithes, which again, this is for those interested, this is Welsh coal. This is a very rare mineral now, so I've got a very limited supply of this now. This is actually the most recent bunker I've done, so very pleased to have got that done. But we have some coal sitting in the bottom there, and when they're in the when the wagons are in the fiddle yards, I just lift them up, pop them straight back in, boom, and the same for the other wagon, straight back in, boom. I mean they're not perfect. You can see the foam inside. I admit that they're not perfect, but they're not meant to be absolutely bang on perfect. Anyway, we'll take you from one end to the other. So for those, we'll start off with one basic question. What's the layout based on? So it's based on the Kelvedon-Tollesbury Light Railway. The line was built in the late 1800s, going into the 20th century. It was the railway was built in the first part of the 20th century, and the railway was the Great Eastern Railway was very reluctant to build it. They really had no interest in this railway whatsoever. They didn't want to do it. This station, Thurstable Lane, isn't actually based on anything particularly, but it's got a loose connection and basis to Inworth Station, and the layout has been the station is semi-based on it, being low level, rolling stock obviously being ex-Wisbech and Upwell tramway cars, and the locomotives being ex-Great Eastern stock. But the tramway cars are kits by D&S. Actually, the whole passenger train is a D&S kit set. The sundry van at the far back and the two Wisbech and Upwell tramway cars. So they're also been designed where the roofs come off. I've used sets to give them a profile, so the roof remains in one profile, and I also have fitted seats into them. So for those interested, I will be putting passengers in, but not a lot of passengers, because this railway didn't really pull that many people. Both coaches have got seating in. The wagons. This is a connoisseur northeast ex-Great Eastern 10-ton mineral, and this is obviously a Slaters kit, and this is a Parkside brake van, which has got Model U. They've got all the figures on the layout at the minute are from Model U, except footplate crews, which will be from Hardy's Hobbies. So as for the way the layout's operated, essentially a locomotive hauling either the passenger set or a freight set will emerge from the Kelvedon end. So we have Kelvedon at that end, and we have Kelvedon Lowers at that end, and we have the Tollesbury end as that end. So all trains, all passenger stock, all freight stock comes from that direction, and anything that goes in that comes from that direction obviously has to go towards Tollesbury, and then stock is either picked up, dropped off, or returned. So most things that come out are fruit traffic. Most things that go the opposite way going in is coal traffic. So coal, grain, empty grain wagons, empty fruit vans, they come in, empty cattle, all comes in, and then it all is returned. So a lot of the layout relies on a lot of freight more than passenger stock. This is the de facto passenger train, and for those who study it properly, like myself, I try to study it properly anyway. For those who study it, the Kelvin Tollsbury didn't actually have. There was a photograph of a sundry van being used in a passenger train, but most of the time they had a brake coach from the Stoke Ferry branch, and that you can't get a kit off because there was only ever 2 brake coaches that were ever made. They're both slightly different, and that means you need to scratch build one, and I'm not a skilled scratch builder, so that will mean something that I'll have to do in the future maybe. But yes, essentially what happens is if you have a freight train come in on the layout, it comes in from the Kelvedon end. The wagons are all shunted into position to suit. Mineral wagons are shunted into here. Now, there's no runaround loop on this layout, which is an obvious, for those who would go, well, how does the engine run round the train to couple up? And it's not a case of actually we cheat and we take it off the board and the wagons are just lifted and then put the other way around. We actually don't change the wagons at all. We actually have a rope. We use essentially a rope which is tied via the connecting the couplings, and the locomotive shunts them into place. That will be shown in the next video that I do on this railway on this layout operating. So I'm looking forward to getting that done. Freight wagons, so all these fruit vans are immediately stored into this siding here at the end. And what happens is where that unfinished area is, which has the E4 and the Manning Wardle sitting on it, will eventually be a farmer store. So wagons are unloaded, empty wagons are shunted here from the farmer's store. They are then loaded, and then they are shunted into what's called the long siding here. This is obviously meant to be a full wagon, so this is a full wagon awaiting departure. I've just put this in just for you guys to have a look at. And we have a shunter from the shuntee waiting to load and unload wagons. He's actually placed in a position where you can park or stable a mineral wagon at this position and have a locomotive sitting roughly in the same place as the van, and the wagon, using the rope, will tow it all the way into the sidings here. So that's how you shunt a wagon into this yard without an engine running round. The other way to get them out, though, it's not a case of you just shunt, you just get the locomotive to run up, couple up and tow them, because sometimes you need the wagons to be the other way around as well. So if you're picking up on the way out, the locomotive will sit in road 2 here, will sit opposite here, and then it will drag it up here. But you have to have this siding almost completely clear in order for a wagon to get into the sidings, into the siding, so it can then be picked up and dragged into the set. But if we are taking mineral wagons on a pickup on a return, the locomotive will have already done a shunting demonstration in the yard, will have gone up to Tollsbury, and then will be on a return. It will come light engine. The goods set is actually sitting in the yard, in the fiddle yard, waiting. The engine will come down all the way through, stop, return, and run, pick up, and then return. So it's quite a complicated process of operating this layout. For those who know, I have an O-gauge J15. Unfortunately, that's not present at the moment. That's a way being lined out, because the photograph of the J15 I have of 7567 is, I've always said this, it's the most unique J15 I've ever seen. She's fitted out. The photograph is in the 1930s, so this is post the lining period, where most LNER engines are no longer painted out and lined, and she's still carrying almost all her Great Eastern fittings. She's only got a few of the LNER modifications that were fitted, so she still has the Great Eastern chimney, the safety valves, and things like that. And you know, it's quite an impressive little engine, so I kind of chose it for that uniqueness. As for the butt jumper here, 7045, she'll be the mainstay passenger engine on the layout, and she's a very reliable runner at the moment. She's, you know, and this is where, just let me change the points so the engine can get through. At the moment I haven't fitted any point motors or anything. I don't intend to do that. I intend to have them operated with a wire which will attach to the points, and then we'll take you down. But yeah, very pleased how it's all gone together so far. Just change the road again. Take the butt jumper into road 2. You know, it's just a bit of fun really. The layout's play value is immense because you can have wagons in the yard in any of these positions, and you can pretty much unassisted shunt the yard by itself, with yourself. You can operate this layout by itself, by yourself. That's kind of the point of the operation. For those interested, this is a coach body. The coach body is actually from Shapeways, and what's happened is I've cut the entirety of the bottom off because it comes with a set of W irons and buffers and things and roof vents, and I decided to chop that all off, paint it in the LNER's patented cream and green colour, and then weather it. We have some Model U figures there. We have a station porter and a passenger waiting to aboard the railway. At the moment the layout only has 3 figures glued permanently onto the boards, but I have 4 figures which are fully comp and fitted onto the layout. The guardsman on the layout also has a guard on there. But yes, currently my latest project is to finish off this LNER 240 E4 class locomotive. The locomotive is a Alan Gibson kit, so I'm currently working on that. The next plan for this is to score the boiler, put the holes in for the handrails, glue those in or solder them in. I haven't quite made up my mind up on that yet, and then we'll look to using electrical tape put on the boiler bands, and that'll mean I can then look to glue, and also going to drill the clank valve holes, and then we're going to look to put the whole thing together, frames and all, and just get the engine ready for operations essentially. But yes, the project has worked quite nicely really. I can't really do this without giving a shout out. This is a permanent way hut, which is actually a little bit out of scale in comparison to everything else, but it was built by my good friend Rob. It's a tiny bit out of scale, but it doesn't matter. I'm not too worried about it. If someone says, "Oh, that's too much out of scale," I'll go, "Yeah, I know, fully aware it is." The level crossing, currently one of everyone's favourite sort of scenes on the layout at the minute, because you know, it's just, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It sits so well on there. You know, you're not really looking at too much more on the project. The cottages are done by a company that does doll houses, believe it or not. I'll put a link in there. I'll put a link for them in the description below for you. They're actually just wood. They don't come with, and they're made out of laser cut MDF wood, and you have to then detail them yourselves. And I looked at buildings in the area around in Essex which were were painted, and the bricks are all different colours, so I thought that's quite a nice look for the cottage. The roof is made out of resin, which is a laser. It's a resin casting, which you can glue on, and it's slate, so you get the lovely look of the roof on there. And I've also weathered it myself. I've weathered it as well, so it just adds a little bit more detail to the whole look of the whole project. At the moment, I'm caught between actually doing anything in this area at the moment, particularly on the back scene. I might just leave it blank. I'm actually quite happy leaving it blank, to be honest. It might get some more greenery because I made a start here, and I might just build it up a little bit more and just take it further and further down the layout. Particularly that end, on the far end, it's looking a little bit barren. So I'm just sort of steadily plucking away at the project and just seeing where I land, you know. That's kind of the point of the whole project, really. Just change the road again. Nice and easy, and for those interested in how the layout's going to be operated, it will be operated by two people. So you'll have a driver who'll be behind the back scenes, and he'll be driving the locomotive. You'll have a shunter who it hasn't been set in stone yet, but the shunter might be in front of the layout, and he will be in front of everyone shunting it to ensure that the layout can be properly operated. So that he can get access to all the locomotives, all the rolling stock, so he can then shunt with impunity. So he may have to put up some fencing behind so that you can walk around the front of the layout and shunt it quite comfortably without it being too out of place. But yeah, I'm very, very pleased how the project's gone. At the moment, the only thing I've got to do on the platform is put a new light railway style water crane in. The water crane that was on here that I glued on, sadly it broke, fell apart. It was a white metal casting and it just shattered in the cold. I'm very surprised it did, actually, and I don't know what happened there. So I had to take it off. So at the moment there's a very sort of square hole with a peg in the bottom to hold it in place. The white fencing here is actually the same fencing which is tucked now, hidden away by greenery and grass, and it's the only part of the railway that's actually still got that fencing in, but it's to give you the impression that everything behind the fence off the road is actually a separate entity. And for those interested in how I got the lighter and darker tones in the brown mud, I have no idea how that happened. When I was painting this all one colour, it all sort of meshed and went different colours, so actually you've got quite a vibrance in colour. So some of it might be actually hard mud, and some of it looks like a bit like darker here where it looks a little bit more wet mud. But the effect that you can see is actually created by PVA glue. So the whole surface here was covered in PVA glue all the way down to the end of the yard, and I used the back of a paintbrush, the wooden end of the paintbrush, and then scored into the dirt to make the effect. But yeah, very, very pleased how it's all gone together, really. Yeah, that's really all I've got to say about the project. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the description or in the comments below. I'm quite happy to answer those questions for you. And just give me your thoughts on the project so far. I'll hopefully have a proper video about the layout in the next couple of months, maybe. We'll see how I get on. So yeah, so do take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you later.